Hey guys, how's it going? So today I'm filling up all of our containers along our east side fence line with greens and branches and holly with little red berries. I've been really looking forward to this project because we've always had containers over here during the growing season, but I've never left them out and I've never decked them out for Christmas. So I think it's gonna be really festive looking over here. I'm gonna keep things pretty simple. So I'll go through kind of the basics of how I put together a basic winter container. I've seen so many of you guys post gorgeous ones that you've already done. I'm getting around to this project really late this year. In fact, I'm gonna have to truck buckets of hot water from the house out here to loosen up the soil because the soil is pretty frozen. It's supposed to be 43 today. It's currently 39. It got down to 18 last night, so it's taking forever for things to kind of thaw out a bit. So there are 14 starting here, and they span this whole fence line all the way down to our mulberry tree down there, and you can see I've got all my supplies here. I didn't forage for all of my greens and such this year. The only thing that I went up to the hills for, Aaron and I went yesterday morning and gathered all these red twig dogwood branches. When we got them home, I showed you guys kind of what my vision was in terms of height and the stature of the whole, because that kind of gives you a flavor, you know, for stature of what the whole arrangement will look like, but it'll look so much prettier once we get all of our fluff around the bottom. So this is what I ordered from the garden center, just because I knew this year was gonna be interesting being, you know, 7.5 months pregnant right now. Noble fir boughs. Each branch is nice and full. They take up a lot of space. They give you that really wonderful smell. And they're just a really nice kind of stiffer structure that can kind of be our filler layer that can kind of come up a little bit. And then we've got Princess Pine, which has a little bit more flex to it. So these are good like as accent. They can kind of drape over the side of containers. And I like the different textures here. Then we've got, this is one of my favorites, incense cedar. And it has a beautiful yellow tips right there. And this is another one that has the real drapey look to it. And then of course we've got our variegated holly with the berries. And I'm gonna have to, I only got 2 boxes of this, so I'm gonna have to try to meter it out. We don't really need a whole lot of this. This is just our accent that I'll put in at the very end. So putting together a winter arrangement is pretty straightforward. First, I usually start with a centerpiece of some kind, which you don't even have to use if you don't want to. And it could be an evergreen you already have planted in your pot. You can use branches, but be it red twig dogwood, willow, birch, whatever you have. You can even spray paint some branches. Maybe you've got branches but they're not like particularly awesome looking, so spray paint them white or spray paint them red or something like that, or gold, and that would look really cool. And then I go in with my greens around the bottom, which you don't have to use 4 different types of things. You can use 1 if you want, and then like tuck in some pine cones or something like that. You can really get creative and add a lot of stuff. And a lot of like glitz. You can do glittery things like picks, you can whatever, or you can keep them really simple and just do a centerpiece in 1 type of green and boom, it's beautiful and will last you through the winter. And in terms of what is in the container as like a frog to hold things in, I always use soil. I've never used anything other than that. Typically in the fall when I clean out my containers, I will just cut the plants off at soil level and then use that old soil as my frog for winter, and then wait to clean out my pots until the following spring to put fresh soil in. That works so great because once you get everything set, like all your greens and branches set, you water it in. Typically it's cold enough, it freezes everything in place and they do not move throughout the course of the winter. I've also seen people use bunched up chicken wire, and you can put that down in an empty container and just slide the branches in through the little holes. I've seen people use foam. I've just never used anything other than soil, and it works really well for us. So I think what I'm gonna do is set the camera up and show you on this first one right here that we've already got started, how I'm putting this together, and then I'm just gonna take after the rest of the 13 left after that. And I'm hoping that I ordered enough greens and that they all look semi-uniform. So I think I'm gonna move from this one to this one, and this is the one we're gonna start with. Because I think we used the hot water yesterday to soften up the soil to get those branches in, it just made the ice layer inside that container a little bit thicker. So I'm gonna go get a couple of buckets of water and dump it on there, and hopefully the ice thaws out enough to get the branches in. But the soil in the other containers is much more pliable, thankfully. So we'll get to work on all the other ones, then we'll tackle this one probably last. Here we go. Okay, we've got our first layer in there. Those are the noble fir boughs. So you can see that gives us a really nice upright texture. So now I'm gonna go in with the more floppy stuff, the incense cedar and the pine. Isn't that so pretty though? The color of the red twig with the color of the noble fir. Love it. Ooh, the light is changing so fast. Sorry about all the shadows, but I got all my fluff in there. You can see the incense cedar hanging over the side and the princess pine, and I worked some in toward the top as well. So now we'll just pop some holly in. So that turned out really nice and full, and it did not take very long. I only used a few branches, or stems rather, of holly. I'm not sure how they're gonna hold up over the next few nights in the low teens. So I would rather save some back and replace these once that cold front moves through. I don't know. Either way, there's a lot going on in these pots. I've got 13 more to do. I'm hoping these other two have had a chance to thaw out a little bit because they were both really frozen. So here we go. Alright guys, so before I lose light, and it looks like I have light maybe enough to do one more, I want to show you how far I got. So a little bit hard to see the detail right now at the moment, at least the way it looks in the camera to me right now. Anyway, I've got 8 of them done, pretty much. I'm going to come back through when I'm all done with any extra holly I have left over, and I'll pop that in, and I'll also put more fluff around the edges of the pots, and then I think I might string some little fairy lights in there. I think that would be really pretty. But so far, I mean, it's just so nice to have something in here. It looks so much more soft and festive, probably more so when the sun's shining on them. But this right here is the last one I'm gonna do this evening, and then I will have 5 left to do tomorrow. See, the sun is about right there. So I have just a little window left. I've sprayed them all with Wilt Stop, the ones I have done, so that should help them through this evening. I think I might cover these just because tomorrow when I finish all 14, I wanna make sure that they all look really good because I wanna get some good pictures of them. So I've got some Harvest Guard cloth, that white gauzy material, that I'll wrap around each one of them just to make sure the holly stays nice because it's gonna be 18 degrees again tonight. But the Wilt Stop really does help keep things fresh and nice throughout the season. After tonight, I won't cover them again. And here's the hardest worker of the day. He has been trucking water back and forth from the house in buckets. Look at the steam coming off of that. These containers were so much more frozen than I thought.
Home Depot buckets.
Oh.
Best way to haul something around your property.
There you go. Let's see if this one is thawed out. Yeah, there's still some ice chunks, mostly around the edge.
It's hot.
That is hot. My word.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. It'll be covered. That's probably plenty right there, Aaron. Yeah. By the time it soaks down to the daffodil bulbs, it'll be cold water.
Because it's fighting through the ice.
It's fighting through ice. So I'm not worried about the bulbs at all. We should be good. I have never, well, 1, waited this long to do a project like this, and 2, never really dealt with frozen soil so bad. So I think I know what your answer is going to be, but fairy lights or no fairy lights?
I'd say do the lights. Yeah.
You make them look brighter for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna pick this project up tomorrow morning. See you guys then. Good morning, it's a new day. It actually feels warmer out here right now, even though it's not. It's 30 degrees out, it's about 11 in the morning, and I just have 5 containers left, which is pretty awesome. So I got 9 done last night. I was really hoping that I would get them all done yesterday, but given the fact that the soil was so frozen, I wasn't anticipating that little kind of glitch, I guess, in the process, but that's okay. That's how it goes. I feel like I was finding my stride though, design-wise, like toward the middle part. Usually the first couple of containers, I'm a little tentative about how I put stuff in, and then I kind of figure out like how I want it to look and such, and then it gets a lot easier. So this should go really fast. Let's get it done, then I'll give you a tour of all of them. Real quick though, just take a look at some of these. Aren't they so pretty? I'll probably come in maybe and put in some more drapey stuff, although I really don't think it's necessary. But look at the holly, still looks great. that Wilt Stop does amazing things. You can tell that this one has been sprayed with Wilt Stop because it's got the shininess going on, both on the needles, I don't know if you can see that, and on the leaves of the holly, and it just provides a protective coating. I mean, to have your greens look like this after 18 degrees, it's pretty awesome. I am just so pleased with how this whole thing turned out. They're just so pretty. I mean, just take a look at this first container here. The dogwood branches are phenomenal. I love the fact that they're kind of gnarled, you know, if that makes sense. They're kind of twisty instead of being so straight, which straight is awesome, but when you're filling this many containers, having some kind of twisty, full branches, it really doesn't take a lot to make a really high impact looking display. And then I love the incense cedar in these. I think it just brings such a bright pop. You know, my main evergreen was the noble fir boughs, which are right here, and I went ahead and put 5 full boughs around, kind of just like evenly spaced around the base of the red twig, and then I started filling in with the incense cedar and then the pine, and then I came in with the holly. And some of the holly branches were real big, like that, and some of them were a little smaller, but they have tons of berries on them. So pretty. What do you think, Russell? You're liking the sun, aren't ya? And the other nice thing about putting all of the evergreens in these containers is that we do have daffodil bulbs. I think I already mentioned that. I can't remember. Between yesterday and today, there are 750 Ice Follies daffodils spread out between all of these 14 containers. And this does provide an extra layer of insulation over the top of the soil to kind of protect them a little further. We do have squirrels a little bit, and I did have a few of the bulbs dug up so that these greens will keep that from happening as well, although it hasn't been happening as much now that the soil's frozen. Anyway, there's really not much point in showing you each individual container. They all are pretty much the same. I mean, they vary a little bit in shape and form just based on the shape of each branch of evergreen, because not every one of them is equal. And I'm not sure really how well we're able to see all of these too, because all the shade and sun, and it's always kind of hard to see, but we'll try to get some good pictures for you guys so you can see some more detail on the containers. And then I was also toying with the idea of using little fairy lights, because I've got a ton of strands of them from a previous project, just kind of like crunching them up around the top of the evergreens, like at the base of the branches, just for a little extra light. And then I also thought about putting big red velvet bows on the front of each one of these pots, but I don't think I'm going to do either one of those things because I kind of just like the natural kind of streamlined appearance of this project and not the over cluttered look. I think it's really easy to go overboard and make things look just a little bit too much, which, you know, some years I like to do that a little bit more, but this year I just kind of am loving the way this looks right here. And the last thing is, I am really happy with the choice of style of container that we went with along this fence line. These are all from Unique Stone. I think they're a 26-inch diameter if I remember correctly, and they're called the Garden Jardiniere, I believe. Anyway, I really waffled. It took me a long time to pick out what style of container, because I do like ornate things, but I thought that these had enough detail, you know, with the ribbing and kind of the rolled rim on the top, to where they're interesting, but they don't take away from what's in the container. And I think that that's important sometimes too, especially when you're dealing with 14 in a row. If they were really ornate, that would be a lot of detail to look at. So anyway, guys, that is it for today's project and yesterday's project. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Now I'm gonna try to go get some pictures of these, so we'll see what we can come up with. We'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.